Hey everybody, Dan here. Another one of our Hollywood quality production videos. Today, we're making one for a general how to engrave using a rotary machine. We're going to go from job layout, just a real basic job, to the engraving device interface, onto the machine, and how to run it using the pendant. So we're going to start off with just job layout. We're going to say File, New. I'm going to be using an aluminum business card because that's what I have. So 3.5 by 2 is the size of this card. We're not going to be doing any kind of multiple plates on a master. We're going to keep this really simple and just do one plate at a time. So here's our single plate that's 3.5 by 2 inches. I'm going to click the text tool, come out here in the middle. I'm going to use an engraving font because when you're diamond dragging, it generally looks better to do an engraving font. You can hatch fill a true type font. Engraving fonts just look better though. So we're at 20 point size, that's fine. We're mimicking an award plate that has 3 lines on it. The first one being name. Hit enter. Enter again for our second line. And it's going to be place. Enter, enter again for our third line, and our third line is the event. These are swimming plates that we're doing, so enter again. To get out of the text tool, I can either click back on the red box over here, or I can right click to get out of it. To select all, I can draw a rubber box around all these, or I can hit A to select all. Then I can align these horizontally with just the H is for horizontal. And all this up here is object, align, and distribute. You see all the hotkeys, center to plates, P, and that would have jammed everything on top of each other in the middle of the plate. Horizontal is what we wanted to get it horizontally aligned. And then evenly spaced vertically is F8. So we can hit the F8 here, and that spaces everything evenly. And we could do a text merge. We can import from a text document. We could go into each one and type in information on each one. We're going to do an import from a text document. So File, Import. Here's our Swim Trophy Plates text document. And we see over here that we have Bobby Simpson first place in backstroke, and then Jimmy was second place, and then Sue was first place in freestyle, and Amber was second place. So we say Open, and now we have 4 plates. We can look at these by doing page down or page up. Page down goes in order. So right now we're on the first plate. Here's our second plate with Jimmy, third plate with Sue, fourth plate with Amber, back to our first plate with Bobby. We can do a reverse order by going page up. So our job's ready to go. Now we need to get this over to the engraving device interface. So we can come into File, Output to Controller, or F1 for the hotkey. So we output to controller. Okay, so our EDI opens up. We see our plate up here, our first plate. We see the red area represents our table, and then we have our F1 dialog open right now, which is where we set all of our speeds, feeds, all that kind of good stuff. So I already have saved my diamond drag profile, so I click diamond drag. If I were to change anything in here, I could go save as and save over my profile. This is just what I use for diamond dragging. I'll go through what these things mean real quickly. So we're in drag mode versus route. That just means that while we're engraving, the spindle motor is not running. We're not turning the spindle because we're just scratch engraving. We're dragging the diamond across the material. We don't need to have it on. The cutter mode is full automatic. Rather than doing a manual cutter set where we have to go in and tell it exactly where the surface is and then how far down from that we want to go, full automatic just means that we're going to depend on the proximity sensor on the machine to determine when we've touched the material. Engrave speed, we can max these out when we're doing diamond drag. The only time you would need to slow this down would be if your particular machine doesn't like going fast because the lead screws are worn out, bearings are worn out. But if you've got a machine that's in good shape, diamond drag is okay to run full speed. Engraving delay is not something that we need with diamond drag because that's used if you have a let's say a router bit, and you plunge into a material, you need to give a certain amount of time for that material to escape from the bit, to be the chips to be thrown out before it starts to move XY. That's not necessary with a diamond tip. You're just scratch engraving, so there's no need for a delay. Resolution, 99% of the people out there are going to leave this maxed out at whatever the maximum resolution is for your machine. My machine happens to be 4000. That's probably what most people will be. You can lower this though if you're doing really big objects and you want to be able to go faster. The machine can run faster at a lower resolution. That's going to be more rare though. Cutter lift. This is after you're finished engraving a character and you're lifting to go to the next character. How far up does it lift? I have this set to 1/4 inch just to make sure that I have a good clearance lift going over to the next spot. Cutter up speed, I have mine set at 5. You can go higher or lower with this. If it's too high, I don't like the way that the block sounds when it comes back in contact with the block that holds the proximity sensor on my machine. So I have it set kind of in the middle. Cutter down speed, I have it set way down at 1. That way I'm not just jamming the diamond into the material. In the case of what I'm running here, it's aluminum, so it's soft material, and I don't want to leave a big dimple every time the diamond goes down and hits it, so I've slowed that speed down to 1. Spring pressure, this is how far the Z-axis pushes down past the proximity sensor. So we're going another 0.1 inch down after the proximity sensor triggers, and that accommodates for any unevenness in the material, helps apply a little more pressure to give it a little bit better depth. My diamond's not the newest in the world, it should probably be replaced, so I give it a little bit extra spring pressure to make sure that I'm getting into that material and don't have any uneven spots. Okay, so multipass down here, if we select it, we have multipass mode where we can do by copies or by depth. Now with diamond drag there's no depth. That would be something we'd be doing if we were routing. So if we wanted to have multiple copies here, we would do 2 copies. Say that means it's just going to run each plate twice and then stop and wait for us to change to the next plate, run that one twice, and go on from there. For us, we're not going to use that, so we just leave that turned off. Color settings are not important here because we're just using black. Mechanical home, that's only if you feel like your machine's gotten out of position somehow, a motor has slipped or stalled, and you feel like you need to get the machine back to make sure that it's at its 0, 0 position when it starts. You would hit mechanical home. Table setup, this is just where all the information is for setting up your table size, your lead screw pitches, all those things that you would do when you initially have the machine to get this set up. Set cutter, again, not anything we use with diamond drag. That's for setting a cutter depth when you're using a nose cone, whether it's a vacuum foot or a metal nose cone. That's for setting. It's an easier way than having to turn the micrometer all those clicks. We can automatically handle that for you. So from here I could say run job. Everything's set. I don't think I have the material on the table yet, so we're not going to run a job. So I'm going to do apply and exit. Now again, we've got our plate here. The red represents our table, my 16 by 25 table that I have. If I had a larger material size, it would be represented in gray out here past the plate. Then the green is out of bounds. So here's our play button. We can toggle between our different plates. Remember, we have 4 plates. Here's Jimmy. Go again, there's Sue. Go again, there's Amber. And go again, we're back to Bobby again. Alright, so this is the home position and the temporary home position. So if I right click on the temporary home, we see we don't have any temporary home set. That's also indicated by the fact that our plate's all the way in the upper left corner. So I could go to the machine and set a temporary home using the pendant, or I can just do it here. I can plug in the values that I want to use if I know what those are, say 4 in the X, 2 in the Y, and say OK. So the machine moves, you heard it in the background, the machine moves to the new location, so it's sitting out over this new home position, and it's represented here on our screen showing where that is in reference to our table. Now, if I want to go back to the home position just to get the head out of the way, let's say I need to clamp something in, or I'm dealing with a vise and I need to get the head out of the way, I can hit the home position, it goes home. Now if I want the head to come back out to the temporary home position, I can left click on temporary home and it's moved back out over this location. Now if I move it back again to the home position and right click, notice it says 0, 0. It shows where it is at that moment, and I can say OK, and that makes the no more temporary home. It's set to 0, 0, so there's not a temporary home anymore. All right, then here's where you can do things like mirror. If you're doing reverse engraving, you can mirror this. You can rotate these, say sideways left or sideways right, upside down. Put this back to normal. Right now the origin location is X left, Y top. So if we had this set to center center, it would work when we had our home position out here further out in the table, but watch what happens now. Now it shows us that our center center engraving is not going to work because we're off the table into this out of bounds area that's represented in green. So it's a good representation to let us know that, yeah, we've got something wrong. We need to go back and set this back to the left top, and that'll work. Alright, then as we go across, this shows the information for multipass. In this case, we only have one pass. If we had set multipass for doing different depths, this would give us the indication of which pass we're on, how deep we're going for each one. Over here's our job timer, and then this is an indicator light that we're connected to the controller. Now we can change our view with F11. So if I press F11 the first time, it goes to the plate. F11 again, it goes to the actual objects on the plate, and then F11 back out. So I'll go back to this view. So now we can watch this run, but I don't want to run it on the plate yet. So what I can do is come into our F1 dialog. Instead of running full automatic, I can set this to no cutter set. And I know that I have recently set a cutter set that's kind of up in the air, so it won't even be touching material. It can just run up in the air, and we can watch the screen and see what happens when it runs. So I can say apply and exit. I could have said run there. So we can run this without the pendant. We have the play button here. So we'll watch what happens. We have live animation to show what's going on. So we have the yellow line shows that it comes out. Everything that's light gray is yet to be engraved. Everything that's green is information that's been sent to the controller. You may see flashes of red. That means that that line is being done at that moment, and then black means that it's finished. So as this runs, at any point we can pause this. It stops here. I could cancel the job here. I can play again. So we'll hit play again. We're going to let this run all the way through. So again, you see the yellow line means that it's lifted up, it's moving over to the next character, and then you can see as it's finished in black what's completed in the job. You also see our job timer up here on the right. Okay, so it's gone home, and now it moves to that second plate. So we have time now to switch plates, get the fresh plate on, then we would come back and hit play for the second plate. When we're finished in here, at any point, like right now, we can just, as long as we're not paused in the middle of a job, we need to go ahead and cancel a job. Like, let's say we had started a job here, and then I pause. I need to go ahead and cancel the job, and then I can close this right here. We're back to our screen. We're ready to send another job over. If we just minimize that and we came in here and we opened a new job and we tried to send it, it would tell us there are no controllers available, and that's because we're already talking to it with this other job. We already have a job that's in the controller at that time. So what we're going to do next in the video is show what happens as we go to the table and the things we need to have set up on the table and how to use the pendant to work with that. So I hope you're enjoying this Hollywood quality production from Wardco. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about what's happening here with the
with the Z-axis on these machines. The first thing when you're doing diamond drag work is that you want to make sure that everything here is tight. You want to make sure that this micrometer is not loose at all. It needs to be all the way up and tight. Then on here you've got the diamond drag adapter that goes on the bottom of it. You should grab this bit right here, this diamond drag adapter bit, and not be able to feel any movement at all. If you feel it bump at all, that's going to show up in your engraving. Now, as far as your spring pressure, you can have this, the lower this is down here, as you go down lower, that's going to give you a stiffer spring. It's going to push down harder into the material. The further up you come, the lighter it's going to be. I've kind of got it set in the middle, and for an old worn out bit like the one I'm using here, it seems to work okay. If you've got a really sharp bit, you can probably go up higher with this. All right, and you'll notice I've got all the covers off of mine. You can see everything. Kind of helps for what we're going to be doing here in this illustration. All right, so I'm going to show what happens if we lower our Z-axis without turning the spindle motor on. So if we turn on the spindle motor, you see how that belt evens out, and then it'll move up and down nice and evenly. But if you don't have that on, that belt will bind up and it'll start to cause problems. Now when you've got this down away from the limit switch right here, you can see how you get this float. You get this action right here. So if you've got something that's uneven, you can have your pressure set so that it allows it to float over an uneven surface just like this. We have it set for a real small amount because we know that what we're working with here is flat. So it's not like we've got to have any kind of accommodation for some odd shaped piece, like if we were doing a pin or something like that. Right. So for the controller, we have our X and Y axis movement. Then we have our slow speed, X and Y, for doing very precise movements. Then as we get in close to something here, say we're setting a home position. So if we're going to set a home position right here, then what we can do is hit this home position set twice. So once, twice. Nothing happened. Why did nothing happen? Because we're still in the slow mode. It has to be in the fast mode. So now, once, twice. All right. So now this is our home position over here. If we want to go back to move this out of the way, we can hit this little home right here. And then if we want to put it back in its temporary home position, we press the suitcase to get it back in its temporary home. What I can do is hit the home button and then set the home back at the 0 position without having to go back to the computer to do it. Alright, so our job is queued up. It's ready to go. So now I can come in and just press the play button. So just like we did from the computer, I can pause. And I could cancel it using the cancel button right here, or I can just hit play. Alright, so I don't know how you can see that. That's our play.